Good afternoon. Welcome back to Three Swords Gaming. So we're going to continue our Guild Wars 2 personal story playthrough, but we are not in the Janthir Wilds right now. And the reason we're not in the Janthir Wilds is because I left off the last episode kind of speculating about the voice and the claw thing. And I wanted to circle back around to that real quick. So I looked it up on the wiki, and there are, in fact, several documented, or at least a couple documented, Voice of Koda within the game already, including this one right here. So we have at least one that we can come and talk to. Voice of Koda. This one appears to be male, judging from the voice. I'm the voice Koda. Koda shows me the whole beyond what ears and eyes can sense and lets my voice share this wisdom. But hearing is not understanding, and only the claw Koda can interpret Koda's will. Which also is... I don't recall this being as clear in other places as it is right here, that one channels the words of Koda and the other one interprets them. All right, hey, I know little of Koda. What can you tell me? Koda is the Ancient One, founder and protector. Koda guides us in guiding others and protecting the spirits of the world. Koda speaks to me, and I listen for us all and try to express Koda's will. So the whole point of this was that waiting sorrow...
Yes. Like the water flows, ever downward, around all obstacles.
Thanks, Voice Koda. Note also that this guy, while still not as big as the bears in Janthir Wilds, is relatively large for the models we have here. So there is certainly precedent for Kodan to complete the process that Waiting Sorrow failed to complete. And that was kind of my whole point. That's as I recall, that was what I was trying to kind of nail down, is that it is notable that Waiting Sorrow was like spared from something by... Oh, is this the next step of the story? I had completely forgotten that. Okay, well, we'll start this in just a second. Speaking of which, there's Waiting Sorrow right there. So it's notable that, like, Isgarin, like, spared her from whatever she was experiencing, and she was on the brink of madness or whatever. Other Kodan have completed that. It is not something that required a ultimately pseudo-immortal bear to go through. Other Kodan have done it. So I just kind of wanted to establish that as being very much like something that is in the lore, that Kodan can in fact complete the process of becoming a voice. All right, yeah. So Waiting Sorrow and Poised Arrow, Kaith, Malice, everyone is at my house except for me. Hey, everyone.
Wayfinder?
Hey.
You okay, Sorrow?
Focus. Let's go over the plan. They keep regrouping and healing, so killing them both in rapid succession is our best bet. Decima is weak.
Wait. Pause here.
Does he know?
No. But let him in. It's not my place to stand between the Claw and his son.
It's also not your place to decide who comes into my house. And yet, the four of you are already here, so... Come on in, Stoic Alder.
Come on in, Stoic Alder. Pokey's inside.
If my son's involved, so am I.
I mean, who might argue, really, when all's said and done?
Aurora.
Stoic Alder.
Wayfinder. I'm confused. Pokey. Aurora, what happened? I assumed you were dead.
No. But I did remember something that I'd long forgotten. Glimpses of my people. Someone I left behind long ago. My name is Waiting Sorrow. I am not who you believe me to be.
So, you spoke falsehoods.
I told you a small fragment of a long ago truth. But my experiences in your village were very real.
And you knew about this, son.
only a few moons longer than you, Pa. She is our fading Aurora. Just stronger.
And magical. The air in this room has never felt so opaque.
Yes, but it's how she uses her magic. Not foul and evil like the strangers. She only helps. I was anxious too.
Little Claw, I don't need your defense. I would never let anything happen to him, Stoic Alder. I was content living my life as a healer in your village. But when Pokey's life was jeopardized... Let's set this discussion aside. The Titans live and thrive. Trust me long enough to end this fight, to keep him safe. Whatever trial you need can happen after. I'm due more than one.
Do you plan on fighting too?
I do.
Sometimes. I think I've forgotten her voice, your mother. But just now, I heard her laugh. I will fight alongside my son, for my people. But this discussion is not done. Waiting sorrow.
Okay, so you can make an argument that this is a tiny bit overwrought, but it's not bad. There is one thing that I do want to kind of pull out of this exchange that we had here, and talk about for a moment from like a lore standpoint, and that is, I have consistently said throughout this playthrough that like I don't get Isgarin's urgency in finding Waiting Sorrow, and I feel like from a narrative point of view, they've done a poor job at helping us kind of care about this. We only care because Isgarin has told us to care. We don't have any context for the urgency. There is one interesting thing, however, that Waiting Sorrow says. She says, whatever trial you need can happen after. I'm due more than one. And I am curious whether that is the result of like her assuming some kind of guilt that like Isgarin and others are placing upon her. She feels that she's due a trial simply for leaving, like not a literal trial, but a trial of opinion, if you will. Or if there really is something, whether she's referring to when she initially kind of fled as a result of the madness, when she was trying to become the voice, or I'm curious what's that's in reference to, because more than one is like something that is relatively definitively stated there. All right, will we get more insight talking to Waiting Sorrow?
How are you doing?
You know well the trail of disappointment I lay. But I've never yearned for forgiveness more than with them.
After we end this, we can have those conversations.
After we end this, Isgarn will tear my soul from my core and trap it in an echo.
He's old. We'll bog down his schedule with Alliance meetings. He'll retire in no time.
I like you. I'm old too, and I'm tired of running.
Okay, so there we get like a little bit more of that, where this like Isgarin takes this incredibly seriously. We still don't know why. That it kind of, as time goes on, wears me out a little bit. So everyone else has some dialogue apparently. So let's get some of that. Let's talk to Stoic Alder.
Last we spoke, you'd stoked in me a firestorm on my son's behalf. How quickly you've fallen down my list of concerns. And how I wish that weren't the case. I may not look the type to be swept away by emotions' flurries, but I must be careful when I allow my heart to open. And to whom? Though I've learned this much to be true, no one is ever quite who we believe them to be. Still, that rare soul may come around who we're willing to stake our trust on, hoping they come close. But this discrepancy I find before me is one I could have never prepared for. Instead, I find myself standing on the precipice of battle, my son at my side, preparing to fight, same as his mother before him.
Okay, so we get some interesting stuff there. I think if anything, Stoic Alder represents like a relatively grounded voice within the kind of cascade of melodrama that we usually get in the story. And there are a lot of reasons that they do that, and they understand that they do it. There was a period of time when they were proudly describing their story as like a comic book style story, and I think that's a fair representation of what they do a lot of the time. And also, they have mentioned on more than one occasion that because video games don't provide a very good venue for like rapid or for expansive storytelling, the storytelling has to be quite rapid because they got to get through, a story in like 9 chapters here, or 10 chapters, whatever we're going to end up doing. I keep thinking that we're on the last one, and then there keeps being another one, but maybe it's 10 total. Because that's the amount of space they have to work with in terms of narrative that we rush through things quickly. Whatever the case, Stoic Alder here does represent like a relatively grounded voice compared to a lot of the others. But I do like how if there's one thing that they do very well here, it's bringing this back to Stoic Alder's, because really, if you were to describe Stoic Alder in terms of how he's been packaged in the story, and you were to talk about his roles and kind of the things that are important to him, even more so than Village Elder, Father would be the first thing that comes up. And really, we understand his role as Village Elder through his role as a father, and he wraps up that dialogue with "my son at my side, preparing to fight, same as his mother before him." So our final impression here, or presumably not final, but our lasting impression from Stoic Alder in this instance is that of a father. So they bring us back to where we should be in our understanding of him very effectively. I am a little bit curious. At my side, preparing to fight, same as his mother before him. So Stoic Alder earlier says that his mother, Pokey's mother, his wife, his the mother of his cub, or however you describe that. Jormak came and went, and she went as well. And we're given the impression that at that point in time that maybe he is not there when whatever happened. But now I'm not sure I'm under the same impression. I wonder if he was in fact there when she was lost. And we do, when I was looking through the wiki, interestingly enough, there is also precedent of a voice being corrupted by Jormak, whether or not that is in fact Stoic Alder's wife or not. I can't say, and I don't know that there are any indicators that is or is not the case. But I would be interested to receive more a more thorough description or a little bit more to that story on what happened to Pokey's ma. Okay, Pokey, you got anything to say on the matter?
Pa's upset. He thinks himself better at hiding it than he really is. But I've also gotten better at noticing this discussion is not done. Heard that one plenty of times. Just feels wrong when he says it to her. He's sweet on her. Don't know if you picked up on it, but I did right away. Of all my mentors, she's the only one that really stuck. Pa noticed my improvements. Then he noticed her. She'd even make him laugh. More than I could. Happiest I'd seen him since, well, in a long time. These strangers messed everything up. Need to beat their sorry hinds for good. The village will be safe. And Pa will see the good in Sorrow's magic. And they can go back to being all sickly smitten. That first go around with the strangers was just a warm-up. This time, I'm ready.
There is a certain degree of naivety in what Poised Arrow is saying here. Things will go back the way they were. I don't think things are going to go back the way they were, Pokey. But I do appreciate your motivation. Kaith, anything you want to add?
As soon as Aureen went to sleep, I couldn't feel her. No more warmth whenever she woke, or heartbeat when she flew. It took me a while to get used to that. Missing her. But I have now, I think. I've made peace with it. If only our girl saw us now, fighting a titan. She'd be upset that we were risking our lives. But don't let me bore you with pre-battle musings. Moments like these make one prone to reflection. And I have a lot to reflect on.
So I don't actually think Irene would be upset about anything. And Irene was by no stretch of the imagination my favorite character. It's a character that honestly I'd prefer to leave behind. She now functions in like an almost mechanical role within the game in terms of filtering the world's magic. I'd prefer to just leave her there. But I disagree with Keith on that particular point. Because if I remember correctly, and it's been a hot minute since we said goodbye to Irene, and I don't particularly care to go back and revisit it, but I believe she kind of gave us a mandate, like continue to protect them after I'm gone. And that's exactly what we're doing. So disagree with Keith. I'm also tired of hearing Keith talk about her link with Irene. Not because like it should be our link with Irene or something like that, but simply because I'm tired of hearing about it. Like move on, Keith. Or, remove Keith from the story for a while or for good as far as I'm concerned. But at a minimum for a while, like I just don't want to hear about it anymore. And I understand they felt maybe an obligation to kind of wrap that arc up. And show Keith moving on in some way, and maybe that's what this is meant to be. Maybe they felt that they owed folks who are fans of Keith, maybe folks who were Sylvari mains, and their first memory of the game 12 years ago or whatever was meeting Keith. That's fine, but it's tiresome at this point, and we're ready to move on. Malice, what's up?
Are you ready for this?
Ready? If you handed me a knife right now, I might start swinging it.
Well, I'll back up.
Yeah, I'm ready to kill a few titans. It would be an offense to everything Almora sacrificed if we didn't.
I don't. So, with both the Keith and Malice thing, like really kind of a little bit of what's going on here is to come back to the idea that they have a limited amount of space to provide exposition. These conversations, whereas, Waiting Sorrow and Poised Arrow and Stoic Alder, we're all very much related to the story that's happening right now. While this is happening, they provide some additional exposition to wrap up other story arcs or to touch on other story arcs as well, simply because they have a limited amount of storytelling space. Yeah, I'm still in Snowden Drifts. Talking about... Alright, so back into the homestead we go. But yes, limited amount of storytelling space. And I can, to a degree... appreciate that. I am exceptionally reluctant to accept it as like an adequate excuse for some of the storytelling things that I encounter. But I'm willing to accept it as a truth because I think it is true. They do have a limited amount of storytelling space, and as a result, I understand that does create some challenges for them. All right. So we are ready to move forward here, which is going to happen on the other map. I simply wanted to move closer and save myself. I went through all those loading screens just to save myself a little bit of silver. I saved myself 1 silver. Alright, forgive me for messing with the mic there. I was concerned that it was having a little bit of an issue.
Over me, son. What should I expect? Fighting a titan?
Might and power. The strangers are unlike anything we faced. No beast from the mountain compares.
Never mind how they perform together. Decima and Greer are more calculated than I've come to expect from their kind.
But at 6, we do outnumber them.
After you, Wayfinder.
We gave Queen Jenna our word.
Okay. So a few observations. I do tend to really pick apart every little bit of dialogue, don't I? A few observations. So Poised Arrow, unlike anything we faced, no beast from the mountain compares. Well, notably, Poised Arrow did not participate in the battle with Jormak. He was too young at that point in time. So it's possible that Stoic Alder has a frame of reference for a fight like this, even if Pokey does not. And then Waiting Sorrow, Decima and Greer are more calculated than I've come to expect from their kind. Keep in mind, Waiting Sorrow's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? We talked earlier about how, the Searing of Ascalon, she had disappeared before that, some indeterminate amount of time before that, so we're looking at 250 to 300 years ago, presumably, and that we don't know how long she was in the ward before she disappeared, and then she wandered for a long, long time before that. And Isgarn actually mentions that giving her magic or helping her in some way, whatever it is he did that annoyed the Seers, I was under the impression from that journal entry that that is part of why they exiled him. So her time as being immortal or pseudo-immortal, relatively ageless at least, may go all the way back that far to when Isgarn was initially exiled from his little band of Seers, or however it is Seers organize themselves. That's my impression, at least. So for her to say more calculated than I've come to expect from their kind, it implies a certain degree of familiarity, which makes me wonder about the last time Titans were on Tyria, during like the Guild Wars 1 era, and also like if there's an indicator there of other things.
Decima, they slither toward us with venom on fang. Watch yourself.
All I see is another opportunity to turn breathing flesh to paste. I welcome them.
What are they?
They're siphoning energy from the Bloodstone. Attack Decima while Greer is out of reach.
Okie dokie. I do like that everyone is on, well, now they no longer are. They're all hopping off their mounts for some reason. I like how they were all on Warclaws instead of on Raptors like they usually are. That's a fun little touch. All right. So, Decima, we're here to stop you from siphoning Bloodstone.
Clear the air.
Oop. That was a bad dodge. Ineffective. Dodge poorly. Now, of course, it goes without saying, and I do remember this from my previous playthrough, but it probably wouldn't need to be explained anyway, that all the mechanics that we had previously seen we're going to see again, right?
Look, her armor is cracking.
Pull it off with your journey kit.
Okie dokie.
Commander, think you can trip her up on your Warclaw?
I went the wrong way. Started out going the wrong way on my Warclaw. Unfortunate. Oops, I gotta pay better attention. Also, I think there's actually an achievement for like not having that happen. There are some places where, not getting hit by like lightning attacks and stuff during some of these, during some of these processes, some of these mechanics, does give you achievements. I'm not sure if that exactly was one or not. I believe it was. Under any circumstances, if it was, we didn't get it there, so tough luck, I guess.
I can't.
Back, sister, back. You'll be turned to scree if your willfulness moves your legs. Before your mind can catch up.
This is our chance. Wayfinder, use the Heart of the Obscure. Just
Okie
like
dokie.
before.
Sure. Is it gonna explode like before? I genuinely don't remember. Yep, looks like it will. Let's join Waiting Sorrow and her shield here.
Come to me.
Stoic Alder, you hadn't done this before, buddy. You're supposed to be in here.
We gotta keep pushing while they're weak.
I will compensate for the delusion of my kin. Your bloodstone ripples through my every essence.
Wow, graphic. Alright.
Fury.
So I have mentioned it a couple times already, but I do want to mention it one more time because I think it's worth noting. That is a very good implementation of the new mechanics. Even if I don't love some of the new mechanics from like a holistic point of view that they've included when it comes to the work law, I think they made the work law overpowered, and I think that like overpowered combat mounts are going to be bad for the game in the long run. But I do think that's really good implementation into the fight. It's fun, it's interesting, it's more than just pushing like a single button or something like that. So I do appreciate it quite a bit. Alright, so I guess we need to come over here and start working on that. Oh, I gotta get over there. I forgot about that. Interestingly, he was only at 50% that time. I think Decima was quite a bit lower when we actually hit the Bloodstone.
Their emotional fortifications will end us if we don't rip that hope directly from their coiled fingers.
Together, we'll crush them beneath us, pull their bodies through the mist until nothing remains but essence and memory.
Rock, pause for me. Voices.
Did I break enough? Yes. Wayfinder, take these. Waiting Sorrow and I sprouted them together. They'll grow fast.
Alright, perhaps I'm mistaken.
Please, Father. Trust me.
Maybe Decima was not under 50%. Maybe it was in fact 50% that when we disrupted that Bloodstone. Because she came back at 50% under any circumstances, so. Get up, you.
Attack now, while there's an opening.
Set him up for the kill. I'll break you down.
I'll strike your cities next.
Alright, switch again.
Yes, I'll set them up. You distract the
get up.
Titans. We heal as one.
Feel the fury.
No, no, no!
Attack! No!
I'll break you down.
Not enough endurance.
Foolish tricks will only speed your march to death.
Feel the fury.
have any more sprouts?
We do. Plenty. Here.
Alright, if you asked me, I would say maybe this is like one time too many. But I would also say that's a pretty mild complaint. When it comes to like the seeds and the lightning rods, it's really not that big a deal to do it one more time. Even if it's also not necessarily particularly welcome to do it one more time. Like we've you know, we've done these things twice now. Or, well, rather, this will be the second time, but we've also done it in a previous fight. But it's fine.
fury, pounded into dust. We heal as one.
Decima, be more thoughtful with your energy.
Your hesitation will get us killed!
They're on the back foot. Just a few more lightning rods and we'll overwhelm them. We heal as one.
Alright, well, let's go about overwhelming them then.
Now!
Nay, Godspawn. Do not let your stubbornness and lust for dominion lead unseen.
Another. Ura.
Decima, come. Yes, Godspawn.
Don't let them escape! Greer and Decima are weak!
I think not. But spill no tear. Your bravery is excellent.
What? Who are you?
We are all Godspawn. But I am Ura. And I am far stronger than my stock. I've looked foolish in the eye. I see none behind yours. Retreat, and so shall we.
Commander, orders?
Be wise.
Stand down! We stand down!
No! We can defeat them! With two nearing death, what's another going to cost us?
Poised arrow. No. That cost could be our lives.
Good. Greer, Decima, come.
Alright. Is it going to immediately trigger dialogue, or do we have a second to talk? I think we have a second. Okay, so, poof, here is a third, right as it appears that we're on the brink of victory, here is a third, look at that, dude, little, anomaly showed up again. Alright, a third Titan shows up, presumably, according to her, because it sounds like a her, or, you know, A at the end, generally, probably, but not necessarily, but probably denotes female names, so we're gonna call her Ura shows up and makes a point of saying I am far stronger than my stock, which does cause me to kind of speculate on the relationship between Ura and Decima and Greer. Is she simply senior, or is she like literally like were they born from her in some way? I'm almost reluctant to say mother because I don't know if that's necessarily the relationship implied. It's also worth remembering if we go back a few episodes to like some of Greer and Decima's interactions when it's almost like they seem immature in nature, and one of them's like, I'm going to tell her, like I'm going to tattle on you, and the other one's like, oh, don't do that, and they have like that weird little exchange. And there may be something of note taking place there as well in relation to Ura. So I'm assuming it's Ura they were referring to there. They call Ura God Spawn. Not sure. I think we're going to need more clarity before we maybe fully make sense of that. I'm not going to speculate on it too much because I don't feel like I have enough of a base of knowledge to make an intelligent speculation there. All right. For whatever reason, last time I did this too, Pokey ends up on the other side of like the barrier there, which is, or in the barrier almost. I kind of wish he didn't, just because it would make me feel more like this barrier was a barrier. But that's fine. Where did they run off to? An area of the map that has nothing going on in the open world. This is what has caused people to speculate more will be added there with the next release. Because keep in mind, the next release is not adding any story. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, it's not adding any maps. It should add story, better. And so because it's adding story and not maps, and because this is where they flee to, in this instance, there's folks who are speculating, hey, there's going to be more there later as time moves forward. Waiting Sorrow, what do you think about that?
Third Titan.
A third
We
Titan.
need to get out of here, now! This could be a trick.
We need to chase them. Greer and Decima are weak. We can do it.
We know nothing about Ura. We need to retreat.
Trust me, kid. I want to rip their legs off and watch those things writhe. But I'm tired. Don't know if I'll last long.
We'll regroup and plan our next attack. We all need rest.
I'll take you back to the village. Our minds are thick with fog. It's not time to make decisions. We rest. Pokey.
Yeah.
All right, and that
What to
should
do now?
wrap us up. Oh well, no, actually, we got an instance back in Harvest End, so let's go there. I'd actually completely forgotten there was another instance, to be honest. But I'm sure it involves Stoic Elder saying something wise. So, let's go here.
I've spoken with Dagonet. He's informing the rest of the Alliance. They'll likely meet in the coming days.
We failed our hunt.
We could have also died, Cub. Don't lunge into battles you're not prepared for.
Victory wasn't impossible.
Be kind to yourself, Pokey. We know our enemy now. There is still some night before a calmer dawn, but it nears.
Showing your face in the village already? I thought you needed more time.
Fading Aurora has returned to us. The path was lost, is all, while tracking the strangers.
I've asked Stoic Alder to keep my identity a secret a short while longer. I need to talk to Iskarin.
I take no joy in lying to my bearkin, but I'd rather they remain in fog a while longer. There's too much going on. I don't want to rattle their trust.
All right, so we get a little bit of nice balance there between Stoic Alder being, responsible and kind of being like extremely principled, and also being a bit of a pragmatist. So this is not my house. So I guess we'll let the fact that Kaith just sits wherever she wants on mantles and bookshelves and whatnot. I guess we'll let that slide since it's not my house. I'm not in a place to say anything about it. Stoic Alder is, better than I am at decorating. So I clear on my main account. I like that. Yeah, that's got a cool vibe. I cleared everything out, but I have yet to complete decorating again. So now my house is just empty and it feels like a desolate place. Kaith, what are your thoughts?
That didn't go as planned.
Hardly the first time. We're plenty used to that. But I'm afraid the cub is taking it hard.
Losing gracefully comes with experience.
Well, at that age, you're beating down the door to the world, ready for whatever life dares to throw at you. Because you don't yet know how much life can throw. But you find out quickly.
Still can't help but worry about him sometimes.
That's how it goes. One minute they're silly little things toddling around, worrying you sick. The next, they're grown. Big and strong and off on their own. Still worrying you sick. But that's when you have to remind yourself. You've done exactly what you were supposed to. Taught them to stand on their own. And then let them.
I don't love getting parenting advice from Keith, but again, it's that Arene thing, right? All right, Arena net. Malice.
Sorry we couldn't kill them.
I'm a strategist. Didn't see another way.
Doesn't mean you have to like it.
Oh, I don't. Hey, we're fine. Made it out with our tails intact. Just a lot to untangle. You know what I'm thinking? How different would things be if the Titans hadn't mucked everything up? If we didn't burn Ascalon? Probably still eat people. I'm spitting about blood that belongs on someone else's hands. We weren't good, but we turned out okay. The Char. Well, better now that Bangar's in a cell. But how do we live with all this? It just gets hard to weigh the guilt and the anger.
Someone has to look out for whoever comes next.
Yeah. Yeah, we're alive. Sometimes that's enough. And I've worked too damn hard to make this place bearable.
So I would not want the Char to, like, be the type to reflect on the past and second guess it. That would be... that would not feel good from a storytelling perspective. It's inconsistent with the Char that we know. I would not be enjoyable. But I don't mind a brief thought from Malice here, and I do find it interesting, right? Because so much of their history does go back to the Titans, so it's interesting to see her reflect on that. But then also they turned against that, and so of course she very much wants to destroy these Titans. I do think, and this is speculation, I have no way of knowing, but I do think we're going to see more of the Alliance come into play to ultimately defeat them in the coming patches. So we'll probably see more Char here and more Sylvari and whatever else. But that'll also have an interesting dynamic since presumably like the Kodan don't necessarily want that to a great degree, or they would only want it temporarily. So it'll be interesting to watch that play out. Poised Arrow, what's up?
I understand you're frustrated, but you need to know when the risk just isn't worth the potential cost.
Then when will it be worth it? We've screwed it up twice, thrice, counting your first go-round. How many times do we let that happen before being cautious becomes the risk?
Little Claw, the scale of this is greater than any of us expected. Impulsivity isn't the answer.
Then what is? What if they're out there killing while we're just standing around?
Poised Arrow.
I'm just asking the questions everyone else should be.
All right, so very heavy on the Bram vibes. However, there are a couple of lines there that I actually quite like. I do like the idea before being cautious becomes the risk. There is certainly a time in warfare when that is a viable question. I thought that was a pretty good line. And then I'm asking the questions everyone else should be, I think is also a good line. So while it definitely feels Bram in nature. That is in part because they reused the voice actor. Like, imagine if they had used Bram's voice actor for Stoic Alder instead, and like change things up. We might not even notice, but because they used it for someone who's a lot like him, I think it's a lot more noticeable. I mean, I might not have noticed. Some folks undoubtedly noticed immediately. Under any circumstances, Stoic Alder, you have thoughts?
Do you regret helping us?
If I hadn't, we'd be burying our dead in the bog. The Bear Kin are resilient, but we must recognize our limitations. It does not mean I'm not cautious of you or of waiting sorrow. I will continue to remind myself that no matter how thick the fog is, It will eventually fade. When it does, the path will be visible again. For now, I watch and listen.
One thing I think they did do a good job of when it comes to writing dialogue and the narrative here in Janthir Wilds is consistency out of Stoic Alder. I appreciate that he has been very consistent, honest to the character. I do like that. I mean, I quite like him as a character. One of the more likable characters for me, if only because there are a lot of characters I don't always like. I'm not a Kaith fan, for example. I have enjoyed Stoic Alder.
When I left the Wizard's Tower, a Wayfinder hadn't been named in years. They must trust you.
Not at first. But helping them keep Omnitas afloat and defeating Iskarin's nemesis didn't hurt.
Will you come with me? I could use that confidence of yours.
Of course. I'm not dead in a canyon. None of us are, thanks to you.
Can I bring the dog? Maybe not.
Whenever you're ready.
Crazy little note here. I don't recall them ever creating an instance where it's like two instances linked in. Although I guess it's probably no different than like what they did in season 4 in like Sandswept Isles, right? It just manifests a little different because she actually like creates a portal. But I guess that kind of did the same thing where it went from instance to instance without, with only a loading screen and no gameplay in between. So I guess I was about to say I'm not sure they'd done that before, but I think they had. I think Sandswept Isles would be an example of that, where they actually did it like 3 of them back to back to back, right? If I remember correctly. All right, Waiting Sorrow, we're here. You want to go talk to Isgarin?
How did you get past Omnitas's defenses so easily?
I built these defenses.
So, how do you want to go about this?
I'll follow behind, let you mingle first. Might trigger a war if I walk through the door before his ego is properly fluffed. Oh, wait, Wayfinder. Before we throw another log on the fire, thank you for not telling them.
It's not my story to tell, but you should.
So it's impossible to write the story in a way where everyone's going to be happy because the commander's never going to act the way, like I would act or you would act or someone else would act. Unfortunately, more often than not, the commander acts shockingly different than I would act. And here's one example, like, the line is correct. It was not my story to tell. It was never your story to tell. It was never really your business, Commander. I still am lost on why we cared.
She informs us that there are not 2, but 3, all of which survived the encounter. 2 are weak, the 3rd unsure.
Excellent timing, Commander. I take it you won't need an update, given your participation in recent events?
Can you shut the door behind you, Wayfinder?
I mean, I guess, but...
Who let you into the Wizard's Tower war room, Countess?
Iskarin, by suggestion of the Alliance. I'm aiding in the Astral Ward's acclamation to modern Tyrian affairs.
So, they all live. I imagine you didn't simply allow that to happen. What were the circumstances?
What has your mood smelling like an elder's backside?
We almost had the 2 defeated, but a 3rd intervened. She was strong, and a bit more cunning than the other 2.
Disappointing, but rational. What of your second mission, Wayfinder?
The Titans kept me occupied. I'm still working on it.
Fine. I suppose our clock bears too many hands.
What second mission?
The Titan Imperatrix. A foe I did not expect.
That threat should be conquerable. So long as we continue to get along.
Tyria united. It still sounds like a fable.
Mostly united, but it's true. And we need to nurture these bonds. They
cannot fail. When a door is shut, you should leave it that way.
Sorrow.
Ren.
You lied to me. That's new. Did she fill your mind with wild theories and hypocrisy?
Don't be dramatic, Ren. You know they're beyond simple manipulation. And I didn't come here for a fight.
Justify your actions to Isgarin. See, so there it is, like right there. Like, if the commander were, if the role of the commander were truly malleable to everybody, I would not feel an obligation to justify my actions in the first place. However, we got to live with the story as it's written. And in fairness to RenaNet, like, what else are they going to do? So RenaNet's come a long ways for like the launch of the game when it comes to scenes like that and their animation. It doesn't mean that that there weren't moments when both Anissa's face and Waiting Sorrows when she walks in and like I can't tell if she's grimacing or trying to smile or what that was. Like they both look a little ridiculous at times. It's unfortunate. Trying to see if there's anything here worth Currently, we're in talks concerning the quarantine and cleanup of Rada Primus in Dajka. Oh yeah, it is in Dajka, isn't it? Cleanup of Rada. Why are they helping clean up Rada Primus like that? I mean, that was a long time ago. I don't know if there was anything there particularly interesting. I just wanted to make sure first. I guess we'll talk to Isgarin. Apparently, we're going to need to stand on the table for that to happen, or else walk around. Explain yourself, Wayfinder. Now, so we do get 3 choices here. You told me she was a threat. I don't see one. That is accurate. Did you expect me to detain her myself? I brought her to you. I mean, I'm fair, but that's like a huge cop out, right? That's like saying I did my job, and I mean, our job was like always like whatever qualms you have about her are unrelated to me. I like this one. When I did my first playthrough, I did this one, but I also barely read the 3. I was like, that works for me, and I clicked it. Let's do this one and see what happens.
Whatever qualm you have with her is unrelated to me.
I'll deal with you later. So, how did you get inside?
The Towers always liked me best. You know that.
Waiting Sorrow. You're...
My dearest friend. I'm fine. And I have stories to tell you.
Stories! The cause of this whole Titan incursion may fall at your feet, and you want to tell stories.
Your instinct to make everything an intellectual brawl has always been exhausting.
Then explain.
So help me, Isgarin. I will open a gateway and lock you in Abaddon's cell for a century.
It's fine, Dagda. His alarm isn't unwarranted. I left you all. I abandoned the Astral Ward. I didn't say why. Jormag raged in the north, threatening the Highland and Lowland Coden. They needed me. But when Jormag fell, the storms calmed. My mind was stilled. And I couldn't return yet, though. I needed them. My people. My presence during the Titan attack was purely happenstance. I sought to remedy it, but then your Wayfinder tracked me down. All who knew my identity were asked to conceal it, but I always planned on coming back here to settle affairs. While I was not the cause, I have an inkling of what was, and I don't know how concerning it is.
You didn't even share this with me.
The business of wizards should remain in the court. Isgarin. Where is Mabon?
Dead. A year ago. You could have mourned with us.
I felt it.
Dagda, escort the Countess and Wayfinder home. Waiting Sorrow and I need to speak. Alone.
Okay. So we'll talk about all that, I guess, once we get out of here. I guess we're going to need to let this kind of play out.
What next?
What next? Dagda, what next?
Hey, you okay?
I'm... Every day that passed since she left us, I thought she was dead. I thought that Jormag might have killed her, that she traveled into the mists, no intention of returning. I thought... None of that matters. She lives. Waiting Sorrow lives. I don't know how you did it, Wayfinder, but you brought her back. Thank you.
I mean, don't be too effusive in your praise. Like, I really didn't do much. I really feel like it was never really my business, to be quite honest. Anise.
How did you get involved in all of this?
It was Livia. A perk of having friends with their fingers in too many pies. She introduced me to Mabon privately. He was scouting new recruits for his little guild of mesmers. I joined if only to keep tabs for the Queen. We were an eccentric group, hosting lavish luncheons, investigating magic anomalies. Mabon treated the whole thing like a passion project or a beloved hobby. He was one of the founders, after all.
Sounds like the ideal place for him to, let his hair down.
You joke. But I saw what he looked like under that golden dome on numerous occasions.
And?
Nothing that bears repeating. I happen to know you're friendly with a certain Mr. Goldclaw, and I would not sully Mabon's memory so soon.
Fair enough. He would have been glad to see you here with or without his helmet.
I wish I'd trusted him sooner. Gods know he's earned that now.
Is it just me, or am I amazing?
All right. So there's actually, a number of things that come up here that are quite interesting following us triggering that conversation. So let's go all the way back. Let's go back to here. Waiting Sorrow, I left you all. I abandoned the Astral Ward. I didn't say why. Jormag raged in the north, threatening the Highland and Lowland Code. They needed me. But when Jormag fell, the storms calmed. My mind was stilled. I couldn't return yet, though. I needed them, my people. Okay. So it is... The dragons were introduced with the first Guild Wars game. They were introduced in Naya of the North. However, they were not awake during that time. And we begin to see some of the effects of them and so forth. And like Kraukatork was actually like in the ground. You could like see where he was on the map and stuff. But the only one that even really begins to stir is Primordus. And then the dwarves like delay his arrival by like encasing him in stone, by turning themselves into stone or something like that. It's been a hot minute since I played the first Guild Wars, but the dragons did not awake until Guild Wars 2. And in fact, Jormag did not really awake until Icebrood Saga, right? So, because in Season 3, he was beginning to awaken and was temporarily put back to sleep by Balthazar using Omad's device or machine or whatever they called it. So if that was meant to be Waiting Sorrow's explanation for why she left the ward, it doesn't make sense unless there was like some just like low level of stirring, like, oh, Jormag, still asleep, is only just now active enough to start creating minions, or he may start creating minions at some point in the next 200 years. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave the ward. But like Jormag was not awake, and she, what is it she said again? Jormag raged in the north. And that's when she left, but she left before the searing, and I don't recall Jormag raging at all in the first Guild Wars. So maybe a little bit of a hole there, unless there's a way of patching that, or they have another vision for that I don't fully understand. That may simply be me misunderstanding that dialogue, but it is worth noting. And then she says, and this is significantly more interesting to me. She says, my presence during the Titan attack was purely happenstance. A little bit later, while I was not the cause, I have an inkling of what was, and I don't know how concerning it is. Then the commander, being the commander, is like, oh, you didn't even share this with me. I don't... Why would she, commander? And Waiting Sorrow continues, the business of wizards should remain in the court. Is Garin? Where is Mabon? So, the commander's interruption notwithstanding, Waiting Sorrow goes directly from, I think I know what the cause is, to asking where Mabon is. And of course, we know about the Mersat presence in the Janthir Isles and the White Mantle presence. And then she asks, so that being tied to the possibility of Titan arrival by the question of where's Mabon. So I'm very interested in, because I feel like whatever happens like over the next couple patches, like that's all going to get tied together, and I feel like that is our clue there, that that's all going to get tied together. She thinks she knows what triggered the Titans, and her first question is for Mabon, who's dead. So there you go. And then she says, I felt it. And then it's like, well, then why did you ask about Mabon? But fine, whatever. I guess, Yeah, I mean, Dagda also thought that Waiting Star was dead, and she was wrong. So, I guess Waiting Star just wanted to know for sure what had happened. And then one more little interesting thing, and for me this is trivia more than it is like relevant to the story. Maybe it's relevant to the story and I don't realize that. But we get a rather lengthy exchange between the commander and Anise regarding when she knew Mabon. And I think when the Alliance is introduced, we are really given the impression that like Anise just found out about the ward. But now we're told that some time ago, Livia introduced her to Mabon. Did that happen independent of the ward? Like they kept the ward a secret, and Livia was just like, "Hey, I know this cool Mersat," or like, what? Like I'm very. It's all. She also packages it as like a group of mesmers hanging out. She introduced me to Mabon privately. He was scouting new recruits for his little guild of mesmers. Okay, so he was scouting. And Livia is not part of that. That was my question, because Livia is not a mesmer. At least in the first Guild Wars, she was a necromancer, and then kind of in Guild Wars 2, there's a little bit of ambiguity to what she is, because she wears heavy armor at one point in time, which I envision a future where all necromancers in Guild Wars 2 can wear heavy armor if they choose, but we'll see whether or not that manifests. Under any circumstances, that whole exchange is really weird. I don't know that there's anything I can pull out of it and be like, aha, I don't have an aha moment from it. But it is a really weird explanation, or a really weird kind of exchange there, and I do wonder if we're going to learn something more, because the idea that Anise has some history going back over whatever number of years with Livia and Mabon. It also, again, raises the question of how long Livia's been associated with the ward, because there are times when I'm under the impression it's been a relatively short time, but then this causes me to ask whether or not that is the case. So, things that I don't know, and perhaps we will learn in the coming patches, because now I do think this is actually it for this patch, unless I just continue to forget things, or rather for this introduction of the X Pack, this first release. Not really a patch if it's the first part of the X Pack, I guess. But all right, there we go. And finally, we get. I thought we got them earlier, but we finally get these really cool daggers, and I really do think that they are slick. Let's take a look at them here. So I wouldn't want them on a character like this, because it's not the look I would necessarily want, like on like a slim human female like this. I don't know that they look kind of big and chunky, and I don't know that I like. But on like a Char or something, I think they look awesome, and they really are. Pretty slick for daggers. So, on my main account, like I have not yet, found a way to, to really implement them like I would like. But undoubtedly, I will get the chance, and I'm looking forward to that. All right. So let's go ahead, and I don't know why I'm salvaging in the middle. Like, what am I doing? Just unbelievable. I never got a chest on drop. I still got that key hanging out. Yeah, anyway, alright. Run over here. Wrap things up. Alright. We'll say goodbye as a bear. With an eagle next to us. That's like very, like, wow, America. Go Team America. Okay, so we have wrapped up the Janthir Wilds story in terms of the initial release. What have we learned? Well, Titans are threatening Tyria, and this Titan invasion, if it is an invasion, I don't know that we know it's an invasion, but they have certainly arrived at least, and this starts way up here in the Janthir Isles. I do firmly believe that we're coming up here with subsequent, well, and probably that too, because I don't think the raid's down here. So presumably, like, we're coming up here and over here with the two maps that are yet to come. But this Titan invasion is starting up here, so I guess like this part of Tyria, at least for now, can probably rest easy, but I don't know if we know that for a fact. It's perceived as a threat, and part of the reason that that's relevant or that's interesting is because we have this Tyrian alliance now, and so they're like, hey, what are the threats? And lo and behold, maybe the Titans are that. We track down the ward's missing wizard, Waiting Sorrow, and she believes that she knows where these Titans are coming from. So what does the future have for us? I think it's going to have more Mersat lore, more White Mantle lore. I don't know that we're going to get Mersat or White Mantle. I'm actually kind of leaning towards probably not. If we do, it might be, maybe we get like a Mersat boss. Maybe Mersat have, a remaining Mersat in some way has unleashed, the Titans. But I do not anticipate like a huge assortment of Mersat or White Mantle. Could be wrong. But I do expect Mersat. I do expect White Mantle, at least in terms of lore. Obviously, this Ura character, Ura, we're going to be finding out more about that. And probably we're going to end up needing to go to the root of the cause. So whether that's the, what was like the Forge of Failed Creations or something like that, whatever it is. Or whether it's where they're entering from or whatever the case may be, I think we're going to end up having to go there. So I think we got a lot of interesting stuff. I will wrap up by saying it's been a while since I made my initial review of Janthir Wilds. My opinions have not really changed substantively. My view of the story, I still think it's pretty good. Not amazing, but I'm not a believer that Guild Wars 2 really does amazing when it comes to the story. I think they did pretty good here, and I did enjoy it. I am looking forward to more of the Lowland Coden and more of this region. I think the maps are amazing, and I enjoyed even Janthir Century, which is not as good as, what is it, like Lowland Shores or whatever this one's called. Yeah, Lowland Shore. Lowland Shore is clearly the better of the two in my opinion, but both are pretty strong. I think this has been a pretty good release. It's off to a good start. It's really incumbent upon them to do more with it. Instead of kind of fading. So we'll see whether or not that's the case. I am more interested in the game and a little bit more motivated than I was, 6-9 months ago when I was so unhappy with how Soto turned out, barely playing at all, Definitely after a couple patches, even after the first one, but definitely after the second one for Inner Nios, never mind the third one, I was really considering whether or not I was going to be playing Guild Wars 2 much at all in the future, whether or not I needed to look for something else entirely. And now I don't quite as much feel that way. I don't know why these people are fascinated with me, but it's irrelevant. I don't care, because this is the end of the video. So in a few months we will come back and we'll see if they are able to keep rolling or if they hit a wall again. Hopefully that's not the case. All right. I'll see you in a few months. Thank you.